Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, man.
How's it going? We made it in this morning.
Okay, yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Will, right?
Yes, sir. We got set up. Hey.
I am talking to Will, and I'm supposed to be really quiet right now, so I'm going to mute this, Chris. I'm supposed to be whispering on a mic. Okay. Good to see everyone. We have a total of 4 people online. Okay, it'll grow. It'll grow. We have about 1,200 subscribers to the YouTube channel here, and to YouTube stars. Well, that's not hardly any, but to a Church of Christ, that's a lot of people. Inside joke, Caleb. Yeah. Okay. We are so glad and blessed that you're with us this morning. I'm going to back up a little bit. I really appreciate everybody wearing their mask and taking care of each other. Anybody that's here this morning that was not here last night? Okay, we still got everybody. By the way, I'm going to try to go through and get all these different groups. Mercer, where are you at? Mercer, hello. Swallowfield. There you go. Thank you very much. Main Street, that's Pikeville. There they are, Pikeville. I grew up in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. Actually, I grew up in East Point. East Point was a town of about 200 and, not even a town. We didn't even have a post office. Smaller than Mayberry. So anyway, it's a little dot on the map in between Prestonsburg and Paintsville. Anybody know where East Point is? Not really. Anybody know where the Highlands Regional Hospital is? Yeah? Okay, I live close to that. There you go. Yeah, a dot on the map. It was the best 6 years of high school I ever had, president of my senior class twice. Actually, vice president twice. You figure that one out. Okay. 6 years in high school, too early in the morning. Okay, let's move on with that. Who else we have? Richmond, where's Richmond? Good morning. Oh my goodness, okay. Richmond, that is awesome. Good to see so many of you here. And the smiles and mask and all those wonderful things. North Lexington, where's North Lexington? There, Egerton, welcome man. Chris, I'm gonna quit pacing because I know you're trying to track me with a camera. Good to see everybody from North Lexington. Boy, I'm going to forget. Georgetown or Scott County. Scott County's over here. Point Pleasant.
Is in Alabama.
Okay. Oh, they're in Alabama. They went to Alabama? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they're in Alabama.
They just went right past us to go to Alabama. Okay, got it. Thank you. Summit. I forgot. I am so sorry. Everybody from Summit? Yeah, I am so sorry. I knew better than that. I know you're youth leader. I feel for you all. Okay. It is wonderful. Did I miss anybody? Oh, wait. North Carolina. Are they here yet? Where are they at? I'm looking. Yeah, right there. North Carolina, raise your hands. There you are. What congregation in North Carolina? Yeah, 7th Street. Welcome all the way to Richmond, Kentucky. Not Richmond, Virginia, Richmond, Kentucky. Welcome here, and glad you all made it all the way from here. Anybody here from West Tennessee, Freed-Hardeman area? Oh, there we got, we got Freed-Hardeman folks in the back, and we got Alabama with Mike Horn and those folks from Faulkner in the back. Wonderful. Did I miss anybody? Great. I think that's got everybody. Welcome. Okay. Glad that you're all here this morning. We're going to just go through just a couple of quick things again, and not the one I want. That's okay, Chris. I did want to hit the. I want to hit the slide, Chris, on the app if anybody does want to use it. The folks online, I want to make sure they're able to get the app. If you're online, search for us on the Facebook page with Commit Youth Rally, or go to commityouth.rally.org, and that'll take you to our Facebook page. On there, you'll have this event app, or you can scan this right now. Anybody in here who wants to get that, you're very welcome to do so. If you want to try the mobile app out, we're going to play with that for years, for next year too. See if anybody wants to use that, or if you all like the booklets. I do want to remind you, with the booklets, you've got those. They're reliable, neat idea. Somebody came up with the idea that you can actually print stuff on paper and carry this thing around. So it's pretty reliable. All you have to do is have a pen to write with on it. If you need a pen, we have pens left over from last year. If you need shirts, we have shirts left over from last year. We've got those greatly discounted at $5, and that's for the short sleeve ones. Okay, what else do I got here for you? Online, we're going to be rolling right up to about noon with you online. We are going to have a break in there. During the break session, what we'll do this morning is where we normally would have a class session where it says Evan and Zach. Evan and Zach are youth interns from this past year and the year before last. We're going to move them to the end of the youth rally. So we're going to give you all a mass break this morning on the schedule. I'll make sure, guides, where are my guides in here? Guides, make sure you know when it says Evan and Zach, that is break time. That is break time. Okay. Want to make sure that you know that. And then what we'll do is when we break for lunch, folks online, what we'll be doing is you'll be joining us back about 2:25, and that's when we'll pick back up in the afternoon. So everybody gets a good break. Prayer requests, send those to me on the Remind app, and I'll be popping the Remind notes to you. If you want to get on the Remind app, Chris, if I can pop that back on the Remind app, if you can find that slide for me. On Remind, join that if you have not, or you can text me direct if you have prayer requests, 859-582-4479. 859-582-4479. This is how to get on Remind. If you're not on it, jump on that for me, and that way you can shoot me a note that way. If you want to just write the prayer request down, you can do that. If you want to come and talk to me personally, you can do that. Anybody who comes to talk to me and needs stickers for the friends, I've got stickers. Because I'm in charge, I get extra stickers. How about that? So I got extra stickers. And I'm so thankful for the folks who put all those together. And stickers and buttons. Got it. Hospitality room, a few snacks. If you are a youth leader, please raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, for you guys, we know how important charging cell phones is, as you have to call parents and all that stuff. So the first classroom over here on the left is number 102. We have that charging center set back up with ones for Apple, Samsung devices, and prepackaged snacks. So help yourself in there. I think they got coffee out here for you all. Got to keep you all caffeinated and awake. With that, we are delighted to have with us Ralph Gilmore from Freed Hardeman, who's going to be delivering the keynotes today. Today we're going to be talking about what if I'm not good enough, and who am I, Lord? Tomorrow will be the fourth lesson. He'll be preaching tomorrow morning. With that, if you cannot be here in the morning, we're going to put all these online so you can watch those later. Today's classes are going to dive deeper into these topics. And so, again, we're very thankful that you're here, glad that you can be with us, use these books to make some notes in. Chris, there is one slide of a little event that happened last night. If you could bring up, Chris is up there just working like crazy. Jesse, where are you? Would you please stand up? Let's welcome Jesse to the family of God. Jesse Heiser obeyed Christ last night. And Jesse, that was just, what a night. What a night. You can have a seat now. I bet he slept well. Caleb?
You step down. In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my life, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are still, when striving cease. My soul magnifies the Lord, my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, my soul magnifies the Lord. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. When I feel afraid, I think I've lost my way. Still you're there right beside me. Nothing will I fear as long as you are near. Please be near me to the end. My word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. My word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. I will not forget your love for me, and yet I'll forever be wandering. Jesus, be my guide, hold me to your side. I will love you to the end. My word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. My word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path. Holy words long preserved for our walk in this world. They resound with God's law. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Words of life, words of hope. Give us strength, help us go. In this world, wherever we roam, ancient words will guide us home. Ancient words ever true, changing me and changing you. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Holy words of our faith, handed down to this age, come to us through sacrifice. Oh, keep the faithful words of Christ. Holy words long preserved for our walk in this world. They resound with God's alarm. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Ancient words ever true, changing me and changing you. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Ancient words ever true, changing me and changing you. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. That's it? Okay.
Youth Rally. Greetings from Freed-Hardeman University. I understand that you're studying Wonderfully Made today. Isn't it sad that most people don't feel wonderfully made? A study from Melrose Center said that 4 out of 5 women are dissatisfied with the way they look, and 1 out of 3 men fall in that same category. It was also sad to read that 70% of women who weigh a normal weight long to be thinner. Isn't it sad that we can't just appreciate how and who God made us to be. How could the psalmist say, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made? But oftentimes we quote only that. Do you remember the beginning of that verse and the end of that verse? It begins by literally being a praise to God. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works. And in this chapter, he talks about how God's knowledge of him is endless, and how God's presence with him never ceases, and how God's power to create him in the womb and then even protect him on this earth is so profound. You see, when we look at just ourselves or even compare us to worldly standards, we're always going to be dissatisfied. But when we see ourselves in relationship with our Creator, then we will always find our purpose, we will find fulfillment, and we will be able to join the psalmist in praise. I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works. The choice is yours, what you want to believe. The truth is, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. God bless you.
Really appreciate, if we can't have David Shannon here, I really appreciate getting him recorded and sending it, and Ralph's looking at that going, can't get away from that campus, it keeps popping up. And now I know the tower that you went up in and the bell that you got to see, that was so cool. Before Ralph gets up, I leaned on a friend down south. And so instead of me trying to introduce you, Ralph, these two guys said they had you in class. And they very quickly reminded me that at a CYC event, you were naming all the speakers that you had had in class. And they went up to you later and said, Ralph, you didn't name us. And you said, that's right, because I tried to forget you. So these two guys wanted to introduce you. Go right ahead, Chris.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Wake Up Richmond. I want to send it out to our man on the ground who is at the youth rally, Travis Creasy.
Good morning, Ben. I'm out here fighting the crowds at this rally. There are people everywhere.
Travis, there seems to be an awful lot of people at that youth rally. Are they going to be doing that youth rally outside all day?
Yes, they are. So far, there's not been any singing or lessons, just a lot of yelling and chanting. Some guy in 2020.
Listen, I don't mean to make you feel bad here, but I don't believe that you're at the Richmond Youth Rally commit at all. It looks as though, Travis, that you are at a political rally that's outside.
Oh, man. This is embarrassing. I can't believe I'm such an idiot. I always messed up, Ben, and this is just how it goes. Living life as Travis Creasy. This is ridiculous.
Listen, Travis, whoa. Man, it is no big deal. God loves you either way. In fact, our good friend Ralph Gilmore is about to tell those people at Richmond all about some self-confidence. So why don't you just introduce Ralph from where you are?
All right, I'm going to do it with the most self-confidence that I can give you. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me present to you Ralph Gilmore.
Hello. Oh, there you go. Good. Good morning. Ben and Travis. They are not good at mathematics. You know how I can tell this? Because Ben's got good sense. Travis got good sense. Together, they ain't got good sense. I'm just kind of wondering about those boys. I think their mothers dropped them on their head when they were born. Okay. All right, Ben and Travis. Yeah, I did have them in class, and I'm proud of them and the work that they are doing. The CYC Youth Rally is a wonderful thing. And I want to say also thank you to Mike Johnson. I saw him earlier, but Mike was at Freed-Hardeman in the year that I left in 1971, graduated, and then went back to teach in 81. So Mike came in the middle in there to Freed-Hardeman, so I never really had him in class, but I've been good friends with him for years and years and years, and I love him very much. He's been here for 30 years because he can't find another job. Okay, and things are going well here at the church, and I love Mike. He's a good preacher and a good friend. I love his brother-in-law who works with me, Doug Burleson, and his sister Christy. So important to the lectureship, and I even know his mom and dad. So I'm looking forward to being here today. I'm glad that I'm here today. Let's see. My wife has had some cancer struggles, and right now she's doing good. And so one of the songs that was important to her was As the Mountains Surround Jerusalem. Are you ready? As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, O Lord. We need to be in your presence. Surround us, Lord. Help. Good singing. You sang some of my favorite songs. Matter of fact, I love the songs about thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and also the ancient words combination there. I like that. Magnificat is one of my favorite songs, and you did a good job. Okay, so let's talk some today about, whether or not you are good enough. And, of course, I told you yesterday that I struggle with this because I don't really know why. Maybe it's because when I was in school, it seems to be that I blame Eddie and Jimmy because of this. Because Eddie is now an elder of the church at Sandy Hook in Middle Tennessee, where I'm from, and yet it's Central Kentucky and not Middle Kentucky. All right, so here we are, but I'm from Middle Tennessee. All right, and Eddie was always, like I said, he's out of the church, but he was always better than me. And he was an award-winning baseball coach. He was always better at baseball. He was better at football. Anything that I tried to play, he was always better. And Jimmy was as well. So it always seems as like that when I grew up, there was always somebody better than me. And when it was time to be chosen, we get around and it's time to play baseball, right? Okay, and it's time to be, which team are you going to be on? I was just hoping that I would make it. Can I say this, girls? This is sexist, but this is the way that I thought when I was a kid, all right? And I've repented of it since then. But I wanted to be chosen before they started choosing the girls. Okay, I kind of was thinking, will you please put me in right field or maybe right field? I've now learned, since I have 4 daughters, that daughters are just as good as guys are, all right? And I have 4 daughters, but my dog is a boy. Well, he was before the vet trip. But anyway, and so I got 4 daughters and I got 8 grandchildren, 4 boys and 4 girls. And I love them, and I want some more grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. So, but when I was that age, I was just thinking, oh, Lord, please help me. I want to be chosen. Somebody, please choose me. And therefore, the thinking was, I'm just not quite good enough. I guess one of the reasons why I kind of immersed myself in books is because I never thought I was quite good enough. And so in the world, the private world of books, maybe for you, do we have any Potter maniacs here? All right, if you're into Harry Potter or whatever it is that you might be into, and you get into that, and one reason that you get into that is because this is a world that you can go into, your own private fantasy world, or maybe some of you are gamers, and there are certain games that you like that you kind of get into it, and you say, yeah, why? Because I just really, in the real world, I just don't think that I'm good enough. There are people that are all over, social media. And in social media, they try to do some of the things that they do, and it's obvious that they are venting to you on places where you can't take this stuff back. I mean, with Snapchat, you can get rid of it, but with Instagram, it's there. And with other stuff like Facebook, it's there. And here are these people that are venting these problems that they have, and, oh, I'm in a terrible shape, I wish I had friends, la, 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 as though somehow or another, those friends are real friends. I've got over 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I wouldn't give you a nickel for any one of them. Well, that's not quite true. All right, but I've got a bunch of friends on Facebook because through the years, I've had a lot of students. Well, okay, so are they really my friends? Well, how many friends do you actually have? How many friends do you actually need? So I want to talk this morning about this. What if I'm really not good enough? Well, what causes low self-esteem? Well, like I said, I have struggled with it through the years. I don't know all the reasons. Maybe because I wasn't good enough in athletics. Maybe because I wasn't good enough in this or that or the other. But I've struggled with it. And so here are some causes that I find. And I'm going to refer you to this website, reachout.com. Because it's a place where you can go to find some of this stuff that you are struggling with, and it's kind of listed for you, and you can just kind of scroll down and you say, I'm having problems with this, whatever it is, bullying, or I'm having problems coping with my mother and dad, or whatever it is. It's a good place for you to go and think, and as far as what I can see, the advice seems to be pretty sound. All right, so here are some reasons what causes self-esteem, low self-esteem. Well, the first thing that you need to try to eliminate would be medical issues. Because sometimes the medical issues that you have are causing some of your problems, and you're not even aware of it because you have a medical issue. Like with my mother, on my mother's side of the family, depression ran pretty rampant, and yet she was back in the day when depression was viewed to be something that was a negative thing that you had to be quiet about, because, shh, don't tell anybody, but I'm depressed. What I'm about to tell you is a true story. My mother's daddy committed suicide, and my mother's brother committed suicide, and my mother then finally decided to get tested for this and get treated for this when she was in her 60s. She began to get treated for depression. Now, let me say this to those of you who might have a medical issue for the reason why you don't feel good about yourself, maybe depression. Eliminate the medical stuff on the front end if you can. Go to a doctor and eliminate that if you can. If you are clinically depressed and you need to get treated for it, and it's no different than insulin for a diabetic. You need to take psychotropic drugs, and if you need to do that in order to try to feel better, about yourself, then do that. Because that might be something that you really can't control. When my mother was on her medication, she was such a happier person. I grew up with a mother who was depressed all the time, and I felt that she was just on me all the time, because that was the way that she reacted to life. But I look back at that now and I said, look, if she had been properly treated, she would have been a different mother. And some of you might struggle with that, or your parents may struggle with that, and they don't want to get treated because somehow or another they think it's a disgrace to get treated for depression. So the first thing you eliminate with if you have problems with thinking this way about yourself, is any medical stuff. Maybe you go see somebody and you get some help with not just depression, but other things that might be affecting this. So the first thing that I want you to do about self-esteem is that if you're having problems with it, be man enough or woman enough to say to your mom or dad, this is the way that I'm feeling about this. Especially if you have any thoughts of suicide. Or anybody who's listening online, if you have any thoughts of suicide, do not think that that is natural. You need to get that addressed, and if there's a medical reason for doing it, can I say this one more time? If there's a medical reason for doing it, that's the first thing that you do. All right, now let's assume now that from now on we're not talking about medical issues like mood disorders or medical issues that you might have, brain tumors or whatever else. I had a frontal lobotomy, or was it a bottle in front of me? I can't remember. Okay, all right, so I didn't really do that. All right, but whenever you think of it, it could be that you might have something that needs to be addressed by the medical community. Let's assume now that we're talking about the others, and this might constitute less than 20% of those with low self-esteem. All right, so if you heard me say that, go to a doctor and make sure that there is not something going on that you couldn't get some help with. Now, the next thing I want to say to you is this. What about anxiety? Anxiety, okay? Anxiety is a big deal. I have had some anxiety attacks throughout my lifetime, and they suck eggs, every one of them. I mean, every time you have one, it's kind of like, whoa, what's up with that? Okay, I thought I was having a heart attack in 1986 because I started teaching Freed Hardeman in 1981. Had a full-time preaching job at the Central Church of Christ, full-time husband, full-time dad, full-time professor, and all this stuff. And all this was beginning to cave in on me. I thought I was having a heart attack. So I went to see one of our elders, was a cardiologist. Went to see him and did the treadmill thing. And he said, "There's nothing wrong with your heart." I said, "Oh, yeah, it is. I'm having a heart attack or something. There's something going on here, because I'm having a heart attack." He said, "No, you're not having a heart attack." It took me another 15 years before I actually had a heart attack. Okay, but the point is, I didn't have one then, but I thought that I did. Well, I told you last night that I struggled sometimes with problems with myself, and so I was a math major, and Phil, we have this, he's a civil engineer. I don't know how civil he is, but at least he's an engineer. Okay, and so when we think about people that like math, I like people that like math because I like math. All right, so whenever I was a math major, and then I decided my second year to become a Bible major, and then that went okay, and so then I decided that I was going to try to add a place to preach in Mississippi, and I tried out a place to preach in Mississippi so I could preach on Sundays. Remember, I'm still a dumb college student, and so I had 3 sermons that I'd preached before, and I preached 2 of them the Sunday that I tried out, and they hired me. Okay, so I got 1 sermon left. Okay, and now I got to preach 2 sermons every Sunday, right? Okay, so my father-in-law was good to make carbon copies of his sermon because he'd been a gospel preacher for many years, J.A. Thornton, in Mississippi, and so I did that. But I noticed that every Saturday night I got a virus. Okay, now what is the deal with that? I got the big D. Do I need to be more specific? Okay, so I got this virus every Saturday night. Every Saturday night before I got to preach, man, I got, sick. And I thought, what is the odds of this happening on a 7-day cycle? I mean, what is the deal with this? Well, I got this preaching job. I didn't have enough sermons. I was getting serious about this girl that I eventually married, my first wife. We've been married 49 years and a half. And so the big year, number 50 is coming up in June, and my kids better do something big. Okay, so whenever we think about this, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm just sick on Saturday night. So I went to my doctor in Mount Pleasant, Tennessee, and I told him, I said, "Man, what is going on with me? I think I'm dying of cancer or something. What is the deal? I'm sick every Saturday night." He said, "Well, what's new in your life?" I said, "Well, I changed majors. And therefore, I'm changing professions. I'm not going to be a navigator in the Air Force. I'm going to think I'm going to be a preacher or whatever." Okay, and then I'm also doing this, and then I'm dating this girl, and I got to catch up with Bible courses because Chad had to have so many Bible courses to get you. So I was taking 3 Bible courses a semester, and I was doing this and this and this. And he said, He said, "I can help you." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, I can help you." He said, "I want you to get this filled." Well, it was a prescription for 5 milligrams of Valium. Valium, why? It's a sedative. Okay? Valium. Let's say that together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Valium. Doesn't that just sound restful and peaceful? Okay, so I would take that on Sunday morning, on the way down to preach. I couldn't preach any better, but I didn't care. All right, and so the thing is that I was sedated somewhat in order to preach. And so I did that, and I got rid of my virus on Saturday night. Because this stuff will put you in a restful mood, whoever you are. And so I was just taking this in order to preach. Well, I would do that intermittently during the time that I was preaching until the time that we got married on June 11th, 1971. And then on that day, I happened to be spending that night in New Albany, Mississippi with one of the elders who was a pharmacist. And then I looked at my bottle of pills, my wonderful Valium. They were so wonderful. Matter of fact, they were so good that I wish I had a Valium about this big in my pocket just to lick on every once in a while. Okay, because it was so good. And I looked at the bottle of Valium right here, and I said, "I cannot get married today. On this my wedding day, I cannot get married sedated." And so I flushed them down the toilet. And as they swirled, I counted them all. And they swirled and they all went down the toilet. And I got married without being sedated. Now, for those of you who need sedation, I'm not talking. If your doctor has put you on something like that you need, then that's between you and your doctor and not between you and me. But I'm talking about me now and not you. I felt that. I did not want to be sedated on the day that I got married. And then over the years, there's been only a few times in the 49 years since then that I've ever needed anything to try to help me relax, but I still get anxious. And I still have problems. And I still have to work myself up, even if I know what it is that I'm going to say. It still and that's why one reason, Chris, why I tinker with my PowerPoint slides, because I never think that they're quite good enough. And so he uploaded a bunch of slides today, which I probably am not going to get to. Unsupportive parents. Caregivers in your life who don't support you like they should, or at least you don't feel that they do. And maybe this might be something that you might not necessarily want to share with your parents, but some of you, a lot of kids have, whenever asked, would you rather have more things or more time with your parents? Most teenagers will answer, I want more time with my parents. Well, isn't that weird? Just send me to Disney World and get out of my life. But no, they'd rather have more time with their parents because their parents sometimes are in absentia. Or sometimes you have friends who are bad influences on you. 1 Corinthians 15:33, evil companionship corrupts the good morals in your life. And you should surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be like and the kind of people that you need to be like. But that's not often the case. If you decide that you want to drink, then you begin to surround yourself with people who drink. If you want to smoke, you surround yourself with people who smoke. If you want to do drugs, you surround yourself with people who do drugs. Why? Because that's part of the community sort of thing, and you, before more than likely, will become like the friends that you are around. So if you want to be better, one thing that you can do is make a better choice in your friends. Surround yourself with the friends who will help you get to heaven rather than those that are trying to kick you into hell. So what you want to do then is surround yourself with good people that you admire. One of the things I said about your generation, I don't know if it's true or not, my generation, Phil, I'm older than you, our heroes were well defined. Recently I was listening to a cassette tape because we're moving, and I'm converting some cassette tapes to digital and some photographs to digital and that kind of stuff. I was listening to an old cassette tape of H.A. Dixon, former president of Freed-Hardeman. I love our current president of Freed-Hardeman. You know, David Shannon is great. But H.A. Dixon was the president when I was there. And he was a hero. Man, I have ridden in a car with B.C. Goodpasture, who was editor of the Gospel Advocate. I knew Gus Nichols, sort of, and went to his funeral. Aaron North, who preached for the largest church of Christ in the world at that time, you know, I knew him a little bit. We had these huge heroes. Now, who are your heroes? Maybe it's somebody in church, but more than likely, here lately I've been watching a lot of Arrow, you know, okay? And so it's kind of like Ben Hayes. I went fishing, we went bow fishing one night. I mean, all night. We were, you know, shooting at fish. Okay, so Ben is really good at this, and one of the things that Ben can do quickly is, you know, and he's shooting at something. You might hit something maybe one time out of 3, but nonetheless, you know, he's really fast with that arrow stuff. So maybe that's your hero. Maybe it's Spider-Man. I don't know who it is. Who's your hero? But spiritually speaking, do you even know who your heroes are? Sometimes it's because of stressful things that's happened to you, such as moving during your junior year or whatever. Sometimes it's bullying. One of our daughters would come home every day about to die to go to the bathroom, and we couldn't figure out, why don't you just go to the bathroom at school? It's in the 6th grade. Well, there was a girl who would make sure that whenever our daughter went to the bathroom, that she was in there, and she'd make her pay money in order to do what she went to the bathroom for. And so she just didn't go to the bathroom and held it all day long. And we thought, why don't you tell somebody? Tell somebody if somebody's treating you this way. There are people in the world who can take care of every bully. I don't care who the bully is in your life. There's somebody who can fix that for you so that it will be a better situation, because bullies often have been bullied. And because they have been bullied and they grew up, maybe their parents were bulliers, and because of that, they're bullying you. So one of the things that you do is you communicate. And you tell somebody what's going on in your life, because that person doesn't need to have control of your self-esteem. And if you let that person have control of your self-esteem, you even see bullying on the internet. You know, with certain people being bullied or because of weight shaming or whatever the situation might be, you'll see that on the internet. Don't let people bully you that way without communicating it to some people who love you. And there are people who love you. Sometimes it's trauma or abuse. Maybe it's physical abuse because your parents or somebody in your life is not speaking to you the way that they should. Maybe they are bullying you with the words they use. Maybe they'll say something like, "You are the dumbest kid that I've ever had. You know, I'm sorry, if we'd have had you first, we wouldn't have had any more children." Or whatever the situation might be. And they're not kidding you about this. I mean, they're serious about this. And then all of a sudden that trash goes inside your mind and you have a negative self-image. And sometimes you have unrealistic goals that you set for yourself. And you say, I have a grandson who says, "I'm going to be in the NFL." Okay, do you know what the odds are that he's going to be in the NFL? Well, he might be. But let me just tell you, I wouldn't hang all of my self-esteem on that. Because if you hang all your self-esteem on that, what is it? Maybe 0.1% of the people who play football are ever going to make it, you know, to the NFL. And so the odds are probably not so good. So make sure that you have appropriate goals. And sometimes it's poor performance at school that makes you feel bad about yourself. And it kind of grows on itself. It's kind of like chocolate cake to a person like me. All right, and you say, "I don't need to be eating sweets," and then all of a sudden that chocolate cake looks better than usual. It's huge, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. So try to set goals for yourself about your improving in school, and you will feel better about yourself if you make those goals small enough and if you make them realistic. Another thing is it causes loneliness sometimes. So I want to talk to you about self-confidence through Jesus. Why? Because from a biological point of view, you ain't worthy. Now this weekend we're talking about you're worthy. From a biological point of view, you ain't worthy. And why is that? Because from a biological point of view, you are a biological occurrence. That's all you are. One sperm getting to one egg quicker than the rest of them. There's little kids in here, I ain't going to get too specific, but the odds of you being who you are about 150 million to 1. Because that was the sperm that happened to fertilize that egg, and ta-da, here you are. You're worthy, right? I'm not worthy. I'm a biological occurrence. I've debated atheists before, and they believe in self-worth too. But if you were an atheist, why would you believe in self-worth? Well, there is no God. So view yourself in the cosmos here, and where you fit in the entire cosmos, and then say to yourself, you're worthy. You ain't worthy. You are a sperm and an egg getting together, and you're just a biological organism. That's all you are, is a biological organism. Now, you might think that you're worthy, and somebody can tell you that you're worthy, but there is no real worth in you if you're nothing more than a certain sperm and egg getting together. Now, I want you to understand then that the only real self-confidence that you're ever going to have that's worth anything to you, that's worth is going to be through Jesus. And therefore, let's look a little bit this morning at Matthew 22, 37 through 39. You know what it is. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one God. Y'all know this song? And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy heart. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy strength. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy mind. Hear, O Israel. All right, so here's the deal. Your worth is in Jesus. Because biology is not going to give you your worth. Psychology is not going to give you your worth. Philosophy is not going to give you your worth. My PhD is in philosophy. None of those things are going to give you self-worth. But being made in the image of God, that gives you your worth. So the totality of the ethics of Jesus hang on these two things. You shall love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Two things. All right, I teach my students the vertical and the horizontal. The vertical first. Love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's number one. It's always number one. When you're having problems with self-esteem, one of the things that you should say is, how's my relationship with God going? Where am I with the Lord? Am I pretty tight with the Lord? If you're pretty tight with the Lord, problems are you're not going to have problems with self-esteem. Why? Because you're loving God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. All of these different parts of who you are, your heart and your soul, the deepest part of you. Okay? Your mind and your strength. The Greeks thought of the best part of you as being deep down inside your body cavity. You know, the Greek word for compassion is actually the word for bowels. Eusploxnoi. And that's the word for bowels. And so they thought that the compassion is really deep inside of you. You know, like deep inside your body cavity? It's deep inside of you. And the heart, of course, we do this in English. The heart, of course, is the part that feels your emotions. We know that that's not really where the feelings come from. But we don't say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, we cover our heart. All right, and so we got a heart and soul and mind and strength, and they're all different parts of you. You love God with everything, every part of your being. And if you do that, it's going to help your self-esteem. Why? Because that's where your worth actually is coming from. It is coming from the Lord God. It is coming through Jesus Christ. Now, therefore, everything that he says is hanging on this. I see right now I'm not going to get to finish this, but I do love you. All right, so here's the vertical ethic. You shall love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Now, if you're having problems with your neighbors, if you're having problems with your boyfriends or girlfriends, if you're having problems with your BFFs, whoever they are, or if you're having problems, the first thing that you look at is, how is my relationship with God? Because if I'm pointing my finger at you, I got 3 fingers pointing back at me. All right, so how's my relationship with God? A woman was very unhappy with the fact, this back in the days when they'd hang laundry on the line, and a woman was very unhappy with how dirty her neighbor's laundry was. And so she went over finally one day after looking at dirty laundry all that time. She said, I just want to know why you can't get your clothes clean because they're really dirty. So her neighbor said, let me go over to your house. So they went over to her house and they looked at her window, and it was her window that was dirty. Oh, I see. So what's dirty are the eyes that I see you through. And if that's dirty, what I need to do is clean these eyes. So that when I clean these eyes, I see you better. So the first thing is the vertical. And the second thing, well, let's talk a little bit about the vertical. I know I got to tell me when to quit, wherever you are, Phil. Okay, all right, so then, God loves me. How do I know this? Well, the Bible teaches me that God shows no favorites. And I don't care if you think you are the favorite child or you're not the favorite child. Every one of you is God's favorite child. Because God does not show any favorites. There's even a word for this in Greek. God is no looker of faces. He does not look at your face and say, I love you, don't love you, love you, don't love you, love you, don't love you. He doesn't do that. He looks at everybody's faces, and everybody's faces are accepted the same with him. So your face then indicates that God is no looker of faces. Prosopolepion is the Greek word for that, but here's the word for face. All right, so he's not a person who looks at faces. God does not show favorites. There are no favorites. James says you shouldn't have favorites because a rich man comes in versus a poor man into the assembly, and you love the rich man being there, and you can't stand the poor man being there in the assembly because God does not show favorites. Number 2, God's love has been demonstrated for you. It's not like somebody saying, I love you, but they've never done anything to prove it. All right, here's God saying, I love you, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send my only son to die for you. That's demonstration. Romans chapter 5, 8 and 9. Number 3, God's love is universal, and it cannot be destroyed. One of the things that you learn about sometimes is that your friends are not really your friends when something bad happens to you and they desert you because your friends are not there anymore. Were they actually your friends? All right, so universal and indestructible means that the love of God can never be destroyed. You cannot destroy the love of God. Even if you die lost, He's still going to love you. He will always love you. Romans 8:37 through 39. He will always love you. I'm tempted to tell you a story, but it takes a little time. But it's one way that my 4 daughters, our youngest daughter, knew that we loved our oldest daughter. Our oldest daughter spent more than 2 years in prison because of drugs and alcohol. And during that time, our youngest daughter, one night I went to her and I said to her, "You know we love you." She said, "Dad, I know that." I said, "Well, really, how do you know that?" She said, "Well, you've always loved," and then she named my oldest daughter who had been in prison, and she said, "Well, because you've always loved her." So when you promised it, it wasn't, when you got married. Do you promise to love her, comfort her, and honor and keep her in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, keep yourself only to her so long as you both shall live? Well, that's 49 years ago, and I meant it, and my wife meant it, and we still mean it. All right, so what you do then is that you're trying to find somebody who will love you unconditionally like God. And God's love is protective. One time, one of my daughters was in the backyard playing, and she came in, running in. She was about 4 years old, came in, she said, "Dad, this bird's trying to kill me." I said, "Oh, go out there and quit making up stories." And so she went there again. She came and said, "Really, Dad, this bird's trying to kill me." Well, sure enough, there was a tree not far from the swing set, and in the tree was a mama mockingbird. And every time our daughter would go out there, this mama mockingbird would lunge at her with claws out, scaring her. Now, this was before I knew in the state of Tennessee it was illegal to shoot a mockingbird, but nonetheless, the mockingbird is no longer with us. Okay, but what I'm saying is that, now that bird didn't care what size our daughter was. The bird knew, I'm protecting my nest. That's God protecting you. And so, I'm going to skip through some stuff here. That's the way we're supposed to love God, because I want to get to the second one. And, oh, by the way, the first 4 of the 10 Commandments deal with your love for God. You'll have no other gods before me. You shall not make unto me a graven image. You shall not take the name of Jehovah in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. All right, but the second one is you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. Just love yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. One reason why I can't love you is I don't love me. One reason why I'm starting problems with you is because I don't like who I am. One reason why we don't seem to be able to get along is because there's some deep-seated stuff inside of me that I'm having a difficult time dealing with. My sister died in 1992. She was 54 years old, and she died after 33 days of symptoms of cancer. It's taken me a long time to try to get over that. And here recently, digitalizing some photos so that we can get rid of some old photo albums when we move. I was looking at pictures of her, and I was thinking, I'm still hurt by that. 33 days of symptoms with cancer, renal cell carcinoma, and then she dies. And I'm thinking, she was my only sister. I had no brothers. And it took a long time, and I guess to some extent, I'm still not over that. Whenever you think of stuff like that happens to you, it does affect the way that you think about yourself. So I want to close this session with this slide right here. Here are 5 ways that you're supposed to love yourself. And remember, the better you feel about yourself, more than likely, the better you're going to feel about others. You don't feel good about yourself? Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Here's one of the things that I think a sermon that I've never preached. Joy, the acrostic, J-O-Y. Jesus first, others second, yourself last. That's a little misrepresentative. Why? Because Jesus says, actually, that you got to love yourself before you love others. That's why with the joy deal, I don't do J-O-Y. I kind of do J, and then O and Y are together. Why? Because you love others in the way that you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be a good friend. Why? Because you are need intensive. You're high maintenance. People don't want to be around you because it's all about you. On the other hand, what if you were to love yourself? This morning, here's the challenge. Number one, you need to realize that you're not perfect. All right, and that means then that you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't actually say that the mistakes that you make are okay. It just means that the mistakes that you make are understandable. Number one, you're not perfect. One of my daughters had her gallbladder out when she was about 21 years old, and she was our perfectionist child because we had another child that had messed up so badly. And so she kind of became the hero child. The hero child is when one of the children decided to make up by being so super good for their older brother or sister who has really stunk up the universe. And then the hero child then tries to step in there and do everything perfectly. Well, this is the one that had to have her gallbladder out when she was about 21. And she said, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. She said, Dad, I really stink at being a perfectionist. And I said to her, honey, we all do. We all stink at perfectionism. Number two, make sure that you have forgiven yourself if God has forgiven you of things that you've done. Whatever it might happen to be, make sure that you've forgiven yourself. So that means then if I've forgiven myself, I'm going to find it easier to function with those to whom I might need to give forgiveness. Number three, we wish for others to be important to us and to try to understand our actions when we have done something wrong. So we've done something wrong, we're going to go try to share it with somebody. Tell somebody. You know, and if you're willing to say, I want you to listen to me, then you need to be willing to listen to them. Be slow to anger, but be swift to hear and slow to speak, James says. Number four, we desire for others to sympathize and understand this is why I did that. Maybe what I did was wrong, but I want you to understand why I did it. If you're willing to have others to try to tell you that, then are you willing to extend that to others? And then finally, we desire that others should forgive us when we repent. So if I tell you I'm sorry and that I've repented of something, I'm wanting you to put me back in the place that I was, because the Greek word for forgiveness is to put back in place. So if I have sinned and I take this out of place, then forgiveness means to put it back in place. To put it back in place. So if you forgive somebody, do the best you can to put them back where they were before. Okay, so having said that, I want you to love yourself. In the midst of all the problems that you might think that you have, I want you to feel good about who you are. And why? Well, the answer is really pretty simple. Because you're worthy of being chosen, you're worthy of being fought for, and you're worthy of being loved. And why is that? Not because you are a sperm and an egg, but because of who Jesus is. Let's pray. Father, we pray for each person here today that they may come to love themselves in the way that you want them to, and that you will help them in their personal relationships with others so that they will find out that they are good enough in your eyes, and they are important in your eyes, and they are worthy in your eyes. Through Jesus we pray. Amen. I'm sorry.
We good? Okay, I'm going to try and not confuse myself and try and not confuse you guys about these breakouts, because we have made a slight change to them. But before we do that, I want to kind of get a count. So can I get everyone that was assigned the red group to please raise your hand? 3, 4, 5. Am I missing anybody? I only saw 5 hands. Supposed to have 16. Can I get that one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anybody? Okay. All right, can I get green? 8, 9. All right, and purple? I don't see, did anybody raise their hand for purple? Okay. Yellow? Okay. Blue? And orange? And purple? None of the Richmond kids raised your hands. What's going on? Okay, so when you, did you guys not get cards? I thought they were orange, actually. So I'm pretty sure you guys are orange based on what they said outside. But let's double check this. Can I get, just to be safe, green and purple? And actually, did anybody not raise their hand at all? Okay, you guys would be with orange. What church are you guys from? I guess we'll stick you guys in a group real quick. So green and purple, raise your hands. I just want to make sure together. Oh. Okay. Green and purple, raise your hands again for me together because we were going to see if that was a... So we got 8, and nobody raised their hands for purple, did they? All right. Sounds like purple doesn't have anyone in it, Phil. Okay. Well, I'll kind of run around and make sure the classes are kind of set up appropriately, but here's what we're going to do. Green and purple we were going to put together because we thought we had 5 and 5, but 8 will work. So green and purple, you are going to dismiss now. Who's our guide for green? James, you get to be the guide for green. High school room upstairs, and basically what we're going to have you do is exit this door, turn right at the end of the hallway. All these doors should be open for you, and you guys can go ahead and do that right now. Go up the stairs, and the high school room is the second door on the left. So just follow James. You guys can go ahead and dismiss right now. If you are in the blue group, you're going to the library and just let them pass. And then the blue group, I guess, Kayla, you want to take them out? Just wave your hand. Oh, okay. So the blue group will dismiss to the library and we'll just let them pass. And then you guys can go through the middle doors and turn right and go down the hallway. The orange group is going to go to the Holy Word Studio. You're going to go out this door to the left, go up this stairs, and it's pretty much immediate. And one thing I encourage folks to do, we have a bunch of decorations on the walls that are made out of foam. Please do not touch them. They will easily break, and it did cost a significant investment to put all that together. So please do not touch those. So if you're orange, which is you guys, go there to the left. If you're in the yellow group, we've actually changed things. It did say a class on the schedule, but you're actually going to start with a break. So you can basically just head out those doors in the middle to the games. And then if you're in the red group, you stay in here. And we'll start the first session for you guys right here. And we'll make sure that nobody's just kind of floating around afterwards. But I think it looks like it's going to be pretty good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Check, 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 check. You want me to use that one?
No, you don't. You're good.
Okay.
So if you're joining us online, online audience, you are going to be with our red crowd, and we're just going to leave you in the auditorium. The other folks are split up into the other rooms, but you are going to be in here. So thank you for joining us online. And if you got any questions or any comments, be sure and throw that in the chat, or you can text me at 859-582-4479, and we'll make sure and get that to the teacher. But again, the online chat's open. Brett Oakes, take it away.
You got me now? All right, great. This is a very big class. I'm intimidated. I'm intimidated for a lot of reasons because Caleb Hall is here and he's looking at me like this is one of our goofballs at our congregation. So he's probably checking out how this is going to work out. And then I have one of my fellow elders who is watching as well. And Joe and I, we're both elders here. We shepherd this congregation together, and we have a lot of fun doing that. But we keep each other in self-check a lot of times too. So I'm sure I'm going to get a grade. But anywho, glad to be here. Where are you guys from? Main Street, Pikeville, all of you? Oh, good. Well, that's good because I was kind of curious how they were going to divide these classes up, if they were going to make sure nobody knew anybody so they could talk, or if they were going to put everybody together where they'd say, well, maybe they will talk or maybe they won't. So one of the things that my job here today is to get you guys to open up a little bit and talk. And I know you don't know me. Maybe some of you had me in class before at other commit rallies, but if you don't talk, it's going to be a real long class. It's going to be real quiet. Although I can talk a lot, but that's not going to be my mission here. But the goal of this class, and we only have 20 minutes, so the good part is you don't have to deal with me for that long, is to have a discussion about a couple of the topics that you've heard Ralph already speak about, is how we do with our relationships and how good are we with relationships and what those things look like. And what causes problems in those relationships and what's good about those relationships and why do we have relationships and all those kind of things, and how that relates to who we are, our self-esteem, how that equates to maybe some anxieties, those things that Ralph even talked about today. Has anybody here ever had an anxiety attack? Okay. Well, that's good to know because I'm not sure if I've ever had one or not, but I don't think I have. And so sometimes I'm not probably very good at understanding that. I just know it's real. I don't panic very often. I don't get scared. I'm one of those guys that if I see a problem, I go run and tackle it and fix it. Now sometimes, and you guys will understand, especially we've got one guy in this class, all right? Well, one guy in this group here. I know we got other gentlemen here, but when we get married, men tend to be the problem solvers. Women are very good about expressing the problems that they're having or challenges that they're having, and they just want somebody to listen. They don't want somebody to solve their problems. They just want somebody to listen. Me, I've been married 35 years. I had to learn that the hard way. I got a big noggin because my wife has smacked me upside the head with a skillet several times just to say, hey, I don't need you to solve this for me, just listen. So anyway, it has nothing to do with this class, but anxiety, maybe I've had it, I just don't know. But when we talk about relationships, who here thinks they have one really good friend? Raise your hand. Okay. Some raised their hand, some didn't. Okay, that's okay. What makes a really good friend? This is where it's time to talk.
Someone who's always there for you, no matter what you've done.
Somebody's always there for you, no matter what you've done. What else? A good listener. Boy, that's key. That's key. What else? An encourager, absolutely. What else? Somebody who listens. What else? Somebody who's thoughtful. Okay? Assume the best of you first. Good. This is all good stuff. So what I'm going to assume, since most all of you raised your hand that you have a really good friend, that really good friend is that person, has those kind of qualities and those kind of characteristics. What happens when that friend isn't so thoughtful, isn't such a good listener, isn't there for you all the time? What happens? It hurts. Do we just run away from them? Say, bah, kicking you to the curb, you're gone. She gone, he gone. Do we do that? Sometimes we do. Maybe so, maybe not. What does that cause? What kind of stress does that cause us? What kind of problems does that cause us? Oh, we got some more fellas, all right. Now we got more of a male balance. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Miss Mathis. Okay, so what kind of problems does that cause us? What kind of stress does that cause us? Does that start to cause some anxiety? Does that start to cause some pain, some sorrow? So when we have those problems and when we have those challenges, what do we do? What do we do? We're talking to boys and young men about friendships, and when we have good friendships, what happens when they basically start to fall apart? What do we do? Now, guys act totally different than girls, and I love that because there's a major dynamic there. Guys will go out in the backyard and beat each other up, pick each other up and say, we're bros again, all right? Girls, on the other hand, now this is just my experience. Now, I've raised a daughter and a son. So I have a 30-year-old daughter and a 30-year-old son and a 34-year-old daughter who I think the world is more awesome because they're in it. But I watched my son and how he handled his issues. I watched my daughter how she handled her challenges. So girls, what do girls do? I'm going to just lay it on you girls. What is it that you guys typically do? Depends on the girl. Okay. What do we see?
Some girls are really, really, really dramatic.
Drama queens.
Like, they try to make a big stink out of it.
Yeah.
Other girls are just chill.
Yeah? Okay, what else?
I would try to fix it, solve it.
Okay. Women, I love that. Women typically are problem solvers. And they usually are very good at what I call negotiation, or maybe kind of bringing things down to really what's going on. Guys, they don't want to listen to that. Guys are better because I think that's just in our DNA to be a little bit more rough and tumble. And I'm not saying girls aren't rough and tumble, because I know they are. But guys are like, man, let's just go duke it out and we'll be friends after this is all over. Maybe. What's that? That's true. Sometimes they just internalize it and kind of deal with it. And I think that's the most dangerous. That's the most dangerous thing that we get involved with, because it becomes so internal that that's where that strife and that anxiety and that what I call that pain and that pressure really starts to build. And so when we talk about those relationships from a friend perspective and where they can and will let us down, it's how we deal with it. So when we feel about how we deal with those things that we just talked about, whether we talk about it, whether we internalize it, when we get to the point where we think we've had enough and we can't handle it, give me some recommendations of where we should go from there. Meaning, I can't handle this friendship anymore. I can't handle the situation. I'm just not sure where to go. This is causing me a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety, a lot of strife. Pray about it. Boy, that's critical. Pray about it. What else? Oh, I love that idea. Bounce it off with somebody else maybe a little bit wiser than you are, maybe a little bit older than you are, or maybe somebody that's had the same experience as you have. How have you dealt with that? And I think that kind of goes to maybe the wiser. I know many times when I've hit challenges in my career or throughout my life, I usually go to somebody that I respect, and typically they're older. Now, a lot of times us kids don't want to seek out the advice of our parents because our parents are always wrong, aren't they? Huh? Okay, we got somebody shaking their head no, so that's good. Well, one of these days, most of you will understand your parents are usually right because they have your best interest at heart, number one, but number two, because they've been there, done that. And they failed, they've succeeded, they've done all those things that they see you doing. So when your parents are like on you, don't do that again. You're going to make your teeth grow out to be this way instead of this way, or whatever that looks like, you know. They know, probably because they've done it. I raised a daughter that if you told her, go to the top of that where Chris is sitting right now and jump into this auditorium and you will be fine, she would do it. She would. She has no fear. She's good. If Dad says to do it, it must be good. I could have my son to go up there and say, hey, jump off there. And he goes, no, I want to go up there and then I'll jump off there and everything will be fine. Well, how do you know that? Well, Dad, you said if I jump from there to there, I'll be fine. Well, I didn't say go all the way to the top. I said go right here. My son is a tattoo freak. I don't like tattoos. I don't have a problem with people who do, because if I did, I'd have a real problem with my son. My son's probably got over 40 tattoos on his body. I don't like them. I don't like them at all. I was in the military, and my son always asked me, well, son, Dad, how did you get through the military and not get a tattoo? I've been in many tattoo shops, and I can honestly tell you, there's nothing in a tattoo shop I was ever able to create, see, or whatever on the wall that I thought I would want on the rest of my body for the rest of my life. But again, I know maybe some of you have them, and I don't have any problem with that. I just don't like them. What I should have told my son, because my son asked me one day, he says, Dad, what do you think if I get a tattoo? He'd be okay. I should have said, I'm only going to like it if you get it across your forehead. Because he would have done the total opposite. Or I'm only going to like it if you get one. Well, if I'd said that, then he would have got 100. The relationship got stressed. Now, my son will tell you, he went to Harding University his freshman year, and we had rules at our house. This is relationships, family relationships. Went to Harding University his freshman year. He got into this MMA bodybuilding stuff, fighting in cages and doing all that crazy stuff. And Facebook's a dangerous thing. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those other things that you guys know about. I have a Facebook account, but you can't find me because my name is not associated with my account. But anyway, I do that too. What do you call that? Stalk? I'm a stalker. So anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, my son is on Facebook, and at this time, we had just moved to Las Vegas. And I hear my wife, and my wife has this weird sound when one of our kids does something that's just not right. And I heard her breathe real deep. She said, oh my goodness. And I just said, what has he done? She didn't even say anything else. I just said, what has he done? You're going to kill him. Well, that's a far fetch, because I would never do that. But this time my son was pretty well built, working out all the time. And I see this picture of him on Facebook, and he is flexing. And he's got this thing underneath his, a little title underneath his picture that says, my first 2 tattoos out of total respect for my parents. Now, first of all, if he respected me, he would never got a tattoo, because we had a rule. You get tattoos, you get piercings where they don't belong, you do stupid stuff, you get off the payroll. That means you're a big enough person to make your own decisions, you're off the payroll. We don't play that here. Again, I know I'm an old drill sergeant, so just work with me here, okay? So I was like, I didn't have a Facebook account at the time. So I said, move over, honey, can I use your account? She goes, yeah. I got on there and I said, son, that's not called respect. That's called being a dummy. I'll be on the next plane out of Las Vegas to Little Rock, Arkansas. I will pick you up. You will take me to Harding University. You'll take me to the registrar's office. We're going to take our names off of every account. We're going to take your car. We're going to take your phone and everything else that I pay for. And we did. Quite candidly, we did. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what in the wide world did he do? Well, he got 2 tattoos. Do you know what they are? What kid would put their mom and dad's initials underneath their biceps? I don't know, but mine did. Big block letters, my initials. Big block letters, his mother's initials. The people he loves the most that gives him strength. That was his thing. I have to admire him for his creativity, but I didn't like it. So was the relationship strained? How did we get through that? Man, oh yeah, it was strained, but we talked through it. We got through it. We loved each other. We prayed about it. I love what you said. You got to pray about those relationships. So that's super important. So continuing on, let's get outside the friend aspect, because I want to go to when people tell us that we're not going to be successful or we can't do something. When you have a teacher who says, you know what? What's your name, young lady? Yeah. Ella? That's a pretty name. I'm going to pick on you for a minute. If I've been in class, I usually just find somebody and I just use their name all the time. So Ella, sorry. You just seem like a real sweet girl, so I figured you can handle it. Ella, I'm your teacher. You're a senior in high school, and you know what? You don't do very well in class. You don't do very well in school. I'm sure that's not true. I think you're better off just being a housewife. And don't worry about going to college because you're not going to make it. Don't worry about going to trade school because you're not going to make it. Just do your best to be a good wife and a good mom. Now, that sounds kind of harsh, doesn't it? Those are true stories. I've heard that happen to people before. I've got a father-in-law. That happened to my father-in-law. They told him, said, hey, listen, you're not going to be very smart in math and all these kind of great things, so why don't you think about going and working out in the oil fields because you're really not going to succeed in doing much else. So when you get news like that, what do you do? What do you think? I'm looking. Come on, boys, talk to me. Back there in the back. No talking to each other, talk to me. What do you guys, when people tell you that, what do you do? Cricket, cricket, cricket. Go ahead. I'll let you boys off the hook. Pay attention. Boy, that's hard. That's hard. What else do we do? Yeah. Boy, that's the good thing that you can do because it's hard, and that's a personality thing. I'll be quite honest with you. It's a personality thing. And some people, when they get that news or get that kind of story, they're like, okay, guess that's what I'll do. You know what Ralph was talking about? We got to love ourselves. And how do we love ourselves? Well, we love ourselves because we know who we are and we know who we want to be. And actually, I love the phrase and I love the fact that when we love God and we have a relationship with God, we love ourselves. God will make sure that we have a good relationship with ourselves because that's the way He is, and that's the way He made us. I love this, the scripture, and I have a couple of different versions that I wrote down. I want to make sure I read them correctly. When I was a kid, my parents were really big on putting scriptures in the bathroom, and my mom probably was more what I'll call the faith tower of the family than my father. So my mom would always say, okay, dinner time. And this was back when we actually ate dinner together. This is when families actually ate dinner together, which I'll be quite honest with you, I loved it. That helped build great relationships and helped understand each other and help understand what I'll call the personal dynamics. And I'm going to throw out a pet peeve here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to dinner with your kids, I don't care if it's at your house or somewhere else, if you've got your phone in front of you, do me a favor, put it away. Good grief, it's 35, 40 minutes to where you are just by yourself with your family and talk to each other. I was a Skyline Chili, and I don't know if you guys know what Skyline Chili is, but I am a huge Skyline Chili fan, although my doctor told me on Monday, you go to Skyline Chili again, I'm going to beat your hiney, because you do not need to be going to Skyline Chili. Your cholesterol's through the roof, your triglycerides are crazy. That's hereditary, but still, I got to do my best. I was at a Skyline Chili in Lexington, the new one. They just opened up in Lexington. This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I got to tell you, I got a hard shell, but man, when it comes to kids, man, I'm a sloppy crybaby. I really am. Even my own kids, when I have to be harsh with them. And I was with myself. I was by myself. I stopped in there, grabbed some chili, and this man walks in. He's probably 30, 35. He's got this little boy with him, 5 or 6 years old. The whole time. Walks in, sits down. The lady takes the man's order. He orders for the little boy. The whole time, this man sat there and on his phone while his son was on his arm, just putting his head on his shoulder. Never once did that man pay attention to his son the 30 minutes they were there. Broke my heart. Broke my heart. You could tell he was just looking for some attention from his dad. And sometimes kids act out. This kid was obviously very patient. Maybe he's been there before and it's just the way it is. But my point is, those kind of things will get in the way of good relationships. For those of you who are social media junkies, stay away from it. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Stay away from it. You're going to say, well, you're an old codger. You don't get it. No, I do get it. And I do have social media. And honestly, I think for the most part, it's bad. It can be used for good. Don't get me wrong. I like it. It can be used for good encouragement. But if you have friends that are not Christians, chances are they're posting things that you shouldn't be reading anyway. Words in those posts that shouldn't be read. So I rarely share posts on anything that I ever do because I need to make sure I read it, reread it, listen to it, make sure there's no foul language in it, there's no whatever in it. But isn't it true that social media can be used as a huge bullying tool? And I've always told my kids, why would you open yourself up for that? Shut her down. Don't have it. If you're going to try to compete with all the knuckleheads on social media, you will lose. You will lose. No matter how many times you post, you're still going to lose. So when your teachers, your friends, your social media, when you talk about those things that help you build self-confidence, if you did an internal checklist, what are those things that help you build your self-confidence? Let's do that. Boys, what's the thing that helps you build your self-confidence? Not letting you slide on this one. Playing sports. Very good. If you're good or bad, doesn't really matter. You like it, right? So that can help build confidence. What else? Need another boy back here. Girls have been all very talkative here. What else can help you build your self-confidence? Come on, Wiley, I know you've got something. Doing stuff that you don't really do that much. So, for example, if somebody said, hey, Brett, and that's my name, by the way, Brett, hey, I want to take apart this motor of this car. Can you help me? I barely know where the oil dipstick is. So that's probably not good for me, but I would do it because I like a challenge. And when I succeed at something that I'm not familiar with, that really helps build my self-confidence. Very good. What else? I'll let you girls answer now. What else helps build our self-confidence, our self-esteem?
I run a lot. I like to run. I'm good at it, and it makes me feel good when I do it.
Exercise. Absolutely. If we have friends on our Facebook list or Instagram or, I don't know, whatever, the Snapchats and all that kind of stuff that don't make us feel good, why do we have them? Y'all ever thought about that? I always tell people this all the time, and we struggle with this. Every congregation struggles with it, every person struggles with it. I tell people all the time, if God's not in your Facebook, you need to get out of it. If Satan's in your Facebook, you better stay away from it. If Satan's in your texting, you need to stay away from it. That's the best way to destroy somebody's self-image, is the whole text thing. Somebody gets your phone number, you try to keep your phone number quiet, so you're going to give it to 3 or 4 people. Next thing you know, 400 people have it because one person shared, I won't give it to anybody else, I promise. And they share it, bad friends. But I was going to go back to this. When my parents, I'm going to go back to what my parents, they used to have us have a scripture in our bathroom. My favorite, I think it's very powerful. It comes from 1 Corinthians 15:33. The way I always remembered it was, and you've heard this before, bad company corrupts good morals. In the NIV version, that's the New International Version, it says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And I love the New King James Version because it says, do not be deceived. Evil company corrupts good habits. God is telling us, you hang around bad people, you hang around people that aren't Christians, Christians are going to fail. Christians are going to mess up. We do it all the time. But you guys Christians should always be circling back around their faith. We're always going to stumble. But you've got those friends and family members or whoever else that you know, when you hang around them, bad things can happen. So you can either figure out one of two things, because when you do the bad things with those people, that's going to cause you stress, that's going to cause you anxiety, and that's going to cause you low self-esteem. When you got to follow the crowd to make you feel good, or when you got to say something bad about somebody else or do something bad to somebody else to make you feel good, it's just like Ralph said. That means you're not a very nice person to yourself. You don't love yourself. Nobody wants to be that person. I wish we had about another hour to talk because the topic they gave me was trying to get you guys to open up, and I talked more than you did, so I apologize for that. But I want you to take this away from the class. When you think about your own self-esteem, your own self-worth, God don't make junk. We've talked about that for the last 2 sessions with Ralph. God doesn't make junk. God loves us for who we are. Some of us are bigger than others. Some of us are shorter than others. Some of us are better at whatever than others, but we're all good people. God doesn't make junk, and we're not junk. So the best way to make sure we keep that in focus, understand God's grace, understand His mercy, and have a relationship with Him. And the only way we can have a relationship listen, boys, the only way we can have a relationship with Him is through prayer and study of His Word. That's the only way. Not hanging around good people. Hanging around good people is certainly a good thing, but you've got to have a relationship and you've got to read His Word. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your comments. They're staying here, right, Phil? Yes. Okay.
Good morning if you're joining us online. Pikeville, still good morning to you. You get to stay in here. Your speaker is Mike McGaffey, and he is speaking on dealing with self-confidence. So again, thank you for joining us online. We know it's hard to stay engaged if you're online. So the good thing is if you're online, you can take your mask off. We cannot hear. Mike, I'm going to pin you up here.
I feel like a famous person. Okay. What do I do with this thing? I can take my mask off up here, right? Haha. Okay. As soon as I took my mask off, y'all were like, no, put it back on. Self-confidence. That's my topic today. I don't like the microphones because I don't know how I'm supposed to talk. It sounds really loud to me, and I'm like barely talking. But if I'm not talking loud enough, then go ahead and call me out on that. I started out upstairs saying that I'm glad that they gave the colorblind guy the color-coded thing to go and do it. So I'm like, do I start in the gray one or the other gray one? But it's not that bad, but it makes for funny jokes. Okay. I've been struggling with my self-confidence over the last couple of weeks because when he's not in here, Nick, no. I was standing literally right here, and Nick came down and said, oh, I needed to talk to you and Mike Johnson. And he said, okay, we need speakers for commit. And I was like, started to back up, but I couldn't get away. And so I looked at the topics and I was like, self-confidence, that'll be the one I'll talk about because it's hilarious. Because I need this topic more than some people. And I've gotten better over the years because of, some of the things I'll talk about. But when I was a kid, I struggled with it really bad. And even now, I was thinking, can't you get someone else to do this more confidently than me? And then Mike Johnson, of course, when he first saw me this morning, he said, hey, feeling confident? And I was like, stop talking to me. With Mike, you can do that. It's fine. We mess with each other here and there. The weirdest thing to me is me doing this lesson right after we listened to a lesson that's the same thing. And so I had my notes here, and then I have my second page of notes, which was me feverishly copying what he had said up there, and so we could talk about some of that stuff. Most of the things that I came up with, I was almost positive that it was going to already be brought up. And so that's how I agreed to do this. I'm like, so I can just basically, hey, remember when he said so-and-so, that kind of thing. But what do you all want to bring up about self-confidence? Any questions or issues or irritations? My last group, I couldn't get them to stop talking, but I had to steer them onto the task, of course. I said, listen, you guys are the light gray group, so we need to get this going here. One of the things, I'm just going to keep randomly speaking here. They asked me about color blindness, and they said, what was it like? And I said, well, I didn't know I was colorblind until the eye doctor told me I was colorblind, and I was like, oh, okay, And I told them, don't start pointing at colors and saying, what color is this? What color is this? Because that irritates us to death. Why do people suffer from low self-confidence? We'll bring that up. Too high of expectations. I have that one circled under unrealistic goals. That he brought up earlier. They tell you, you got to do this, you got to be this, you got to be, if you're not, they told me in first grade, hey, if you don't do your homework, then you're never going to be a, physics teacher. And I'm like, well, I didn't do good at my homework, and right now I'm not a physics teacher or anything like that. My wife really, she gets irritated when I would tell the kids this. That happens a lot in my house. I would tell them sometimes when they'd be upset or mad about something, I'd say, well, you know what the key to happiness is? Lower your expectations. And most people think that's funny. And it's kind of funny because it sounds defeatist. Like, you'll be a lot happier if you, don't want to do a whole lot. And, sorry. But honestly, that can really help. There's been psychological studies about that. If people expect so much or expect to be, a certain this and that, then they're stressful, and it can lead to low self-confidence, and that's not a good thing. Now they talked about unsupportive parents. I told them upstairs that I didn't have unsupportive parents, but it looked that way to other people. And actually there was some people at church that told my dad, Michael has no self-esteem and it's your fault. And I was like, well, what are you doing to his self-esteem? Telling him that. But he had goals, and I say had, he's still around. I've successfully lowered his expectations of me though, so we're good there. There was always specific things that he thought was good, and if you said something like, I want to be a photographer when I grow up, well, what does that do? That's not going to do anything for anybody. That was back before everyone had a high-definition camera in their pocket, and we're perfectly fine with pictures like that instead of real pictures. But anyway, and so if I did something and I messed up, he wouldn't say, oh, it's okay, you could try again. He'd be like, look at that. He fell down. It was, to me, it was normal. I don't want, if he sees this online or something, I don't want to feel that he did do anything to me like that. But he just, he was a specific person, and he had his specific goals. And if you weren't like, if you said, I want to go and fly a kite, like, you should do your Bible lesson for Wednesday, that kind of specific things. And that's good. And I didn't really fly kites, but I did do my Bible lessons. In fact, one one of the things that worked in the opposite direction of low self-confidence, it made me kind of thinking I was, awesome, was when I was a kid, he would give me his Bible classes questions on the way to church. And then he would tell his high school kids in class, my son got this answer, you shouldn't have done it. And so I walked around like I was just, but that's the opposite problem. I'm not going to get into having too much self-confidence today. I think that's a whole different topic. So poor school performance, he said. That was me. I used to describe it, like right now, my kids ask me, why didn't you get a whatever degree? And I said, because I was a terrible, terrible school student. Since first grade on, I just could not do it. It's not that I couldn't learn. I feel like I can learn whatever you throw at me, but I just couldn't do the thing. And so in a world in which all your people at school tell you, you got to do good at school, you're going to be I was talking with Mike the other day, and one of the phrases they use is, you're going to be turning a wrench, instead of, not turning a wrench. And I was like, I like turning wrenches. It's fun, you get to do stuff, so it's the unrealistic goals. Not everyone's going to be a college professor, doing stuff like that. So when you find what you are good at, what is Ecclesiastes, what does Solomon tell us? Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. So if you're doing something good, do it good. I know, English, do it well. Okay. Friends' influence, bad friends. I put friends in quotation when I copied his notes, because if your friends are not encouraging you, or if they're always insulting you, or if they're being mean to you, they're not friends. Move along. Life is too short for that kind of stuff. There was a girl at a little get-together, and they were playing ping pong in front of me, and I was sitting there watching them. And there was a girl sitting over there, and then the ball went lost, and I picked up a little stuffed bear that was sitting there, and I threw it across to her, and she was like, and then she threw it back to me, and she thought it was funny. Well, then she stopped real quick, and I was like, well, okay. And she said, I don't want to get in trouble with my boyfriend. And I was like, I don't know you, but if you use the phrase, get in trouble with my boyfriend, you need to get rid of that dude. And the same thing for the boys that get in trouble with their girlfriends. That's more common, and that's just going to happen. If you're a boy, you're going to get in trouble with your girlfriends. So that's a little different. But if you use that phrase about your friends, I'm going to get in trouble, or what are they going to think? Oh, no, you need to move on. So what are some dangers of having low or poor self-confidence? Okay. I put down, you'll miss opportunities, So, and then one that they don't ever talk about is you won't be fun to be around. And that's just going to spiral you down. Because people, it's like, hey, you want to invite them to come do this? Well, no, they're going to be like, no, I'm bad at that. Why do you want me to come? And they drag everybody down. And so if you're like that, people are going to quit asking you to do stuff, and then you're going to think, oh, no one ever asked me to do stuff. And it's just going to be, it's just a downward spiral into where you just become useless. And then he brought this up. I had a big thing about it. I could basically sit there and click off all the things that I thought of that I think, oh, this was genius, and then he did them all. So that's fine. That's the great thing about this, is that you build each other up with what you say. Yeah. Yeah, it can keep you from spreading the gospel. I want to repeat that for the online people. It's because when you have no confidence, you'll say stuff like, well, they're not going to listen to me, or they'll make fun of me because, I follow this guy that, got killed on a cross 2,000 years ago. And I've been there too. Someone will say something or do something and it's like, and I remember one time when I said something to a complete stranger, I was like, well, so-and-so, I can't remember what it was. But I thought, where did that come from? I was like, that's like my dad, Then I went and reevaluated my life. But he brought this up, and I think this is one of the more important things. If you have low self-confidence, it makes it really difficult to obey the second greatest commandment, which is what? What? Love your neighbor as yourself. I was reading a book, and I saw a quote that fit this perfectly. It said, a person who has no self-worth lacks the ability to put value on human life, any life. And I thought, that's true. Because if you have low self-confidence, then you actually start being suspect of your friends, people that really like you. Someone that's like, well, they really like me. What in the world do they really like me for? And then so you start thinking, do they really like me? Because I can't, you shouldn't like me. And so you think, well, what is their problem? What are they doing? And then you start distrusting people. This is like worst case scenario, but still it's where it could go. You start distrusting people. And if you're suspect of every person's motives that you run across, is that love? Do you really love that person? I don't think that you can. It's eventually going to, again, I keep using the word downward spiral because I can't think of anything else that works better than that. So, in order to obey the commandment, you've got to love yourself so that you can love your neighbors as yourself. Otherwise, you're not doing it. Then they brought up upstairs that can lead to not obeying the first commandment of loving God. Because if you start having such low self-confidence and you think, well, these people, they don't like me because they can't like me. And then you think, well, God made me like this. And well, what's the point of all this stuff? What? And so again, it's bad. I wanted to bring up the reachout.com. I haven't looked at it. He just mentioned it an hour ago, but that's something to look at, to be interested in seeing if, other people. One of the things, if you have low self-confidence, that you need to realize is that you are not the only person in the world who has the specific problems that you have. There's other people. You might start thinking you're alone in this. Well, you're not. Okay. I honestly don't know what the time is, so I'm just going to keep going with my notes that I have. I don't know. I assume Nick or somebody's going to come in and tell me to stop. 10 more minutes. Okay, I was like, we stopped an hour ago if I have at 10. Okay. How do we get more confidence? Any suggestions? I've got some. It all comes in remembering. Remember that you're made in God's image. And He didn't make anything bad. He didn't design anything poorly. He said, I'm going to make man. Let's make man in our image. I refer you to Genesis 1 for that. I'm not going to read it to you. And remember, Jesus thinks we're to die for. I know that's a funny joke that, you say, oh, it's to die for. But it's true. Jesus was in heaven, and He came here, of all places, to earth, not here, so that He could suffer through all the stuff that we have to suffer through, so that He could go to the cross and He could die and be tortured and be separated from God for the first time in eternity, so that we could be with Him. He did it just for us. Now, that's self-confidence. If you have to believe it. If you don't believe it, then I don't know how to help you except stay with the people that you're hanging out with right now. And if you're not being built up, then find people that'll build you up. Now, remember that we can do all things through who? Christ. Through him who gives us strength. It's not our strength that we rely on, because that will fail. It's Christ's strength. That's in Philippians 4. If you're having trouble, read Philippians. It's good stuff. One of the things about the Bible that's amazing to me is if you're having specific troubles and if you feel, I'm going to get into the Bible, I don't have any idea where to start, open the page and you will find something that's going to help you. It's great stuff. Remember that we can be the children of God. I'm going to read 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. See how great a love the Father has bestowed on us, that we would be called children of God. You know the old playground thing? My daddy can beat up your daddy. Well, how about saying, well, my dad created the universe, you know? And you can brag about that. So remember, we're the children of God. And remember this, never forget this. If God is for us, who can be against us? What's somebody going to do? Make fun of us? Ooh, you know, we're going to heaven. Where are you going? How's that for some confidence? Now, of course, you don't want to exclude people. I know I said it like that, like you're responding to a bully, but you can bring them with you. So, and I don't know, I might be done just a little bit early. 5 more minutes. All right. When all else fails, go to some more scripture. Philippians chapter 3. Not 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. I don't know why I did that. Philippians chapter 3, verse 7. This is Paul speaking. Whatever things were gained to me, those things I have counted as loss for the sake of Christ. More than that, I count all things to be loss in view of the surpassing value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things and count them but rubbish, so that I may gain Christ. We should have confidence in ourselves, not because of who we are, but because of whose we are. If you belong to Christ, nobody can do anything to you. You have the confidence to stand and go to God, the Creator, and tell Him things, ask Him for things. You know, you get an audience with Him whenever you want. You can boldly go before the throne of grace that's in Hebrews. And so, if we have God, and we know we have the love of Christ, it doesn't matter what people say to us about, you know, anything. We can have our self-confidence in knowing whose we are. All right, that's all. I'm out of notes now, so I'm going to go ahead and close this session. I don't want to. A preacher friend of mine, when I was younger, he said, when you're out of soap, quit washing. So I'm going to quit. Thank you all.
Time is that next class coming in? Hello, online. We're taking a quick mass break here in the auditorium, and we'll be right back in here at 11:50, and then we will finish up the morning session, and after that we'll see you in the afternoon. But if just hang on here, we're going to leave this live stream going. You do take a mass break too, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome back. We have one more class, and then we're going to cut the stream, and then we'll be joining you back at around 2:25 this afternoon. So one more class this morning, or I guess now this afternoon, as it will be breaking over here soon. We have Mike Johnson. Most everybody knows Mike. Mike's the preacher here, and he's going to be discussing Made in God's Image. Thank you, Mike.
Here we go. Okay. Now, I will be talking to the online group, but I'm going to be using the in-person group. So this is a discussion opportunity that we're going to talk about the image of God. You are fearfully and wonderfully made because you're made in the image of God. That's the idea. And so to do that, I have the response type questions. Here you go. Number one, when I say the word image, what picture comes to your mind? You can do that in the online group too. Think about a picture that comes to your mind when I say the word image. Give me an idea. What comes to your mind?
Physical appearance.
A physical appearance. A photograph. Somebody else? A painting. Okay. And so the rest of you, nothing popped into your minds because there's nothing there to grab the thought. Is that right? That's what it is. Okay. All right. So the word image, all right, now let's do it this way. When I say God, what pops into your mind? Give me a picture. Some of you online are shouting right now. I can hear you. Loving. Earth, world. Okay. My, how the pictures have changed. When I was doing this in the other classes, you get stuff like hands reaching out of the clouds with sunbeams. Well, you weren't saying it.
I was thinking it.
Oh, but you were thinking it. Okay. Well, that's the idea. And so you get all these different images. Now, when I was growing up, kid, the big image was the old man with the beard. Because the way God was represented there had a lot to do with that authority and power and that kind of stuff. And so that's the image that we had. Now, image of God. Now what pops into your head?
Jesus on the cross, like pictures of that.
Jesus on the cross, picture. That's good. We've had that before. What else?
I think just light.
Light. Yeah, bright light. Okay? Not light as in not heavy.
Right.
Light. Anybody else?
Looking down.
Looking down. Image of God, God looking down. Okay? The what? Earth itself. Okay? So, if someone were to ask you to define the image of God, could you do it?
It's seen everywhere.
Okay. Let me do it. Let me challenge you this way. We are made in the image of God. We all agree with that. We have males. We have females. Is God male or female? Oh, I love those eyes. You know, when people think of something that they haven't thought of ever before and they go, okay.
I'm going to say male because it says, like, the word is.
Okay. So women are not made in the image of God?
Oh, yeah.
But if God's male,
But it's not that specific.
oh.
The image.
So are you saying that the image of God is not about DNA? What is God? How would you characterize his form, his being? Spirit. God is spirit. So the definition of spirit cannot be male or female, right? So what is God? God's spirit. It's a different question when you say, how does God present himself? How does he present himself, male or female? Male. He is Father, progenitor, originator, starter, creator. The idea then of God and the image of God has nothing to do with being male or female. It has to do with your nature, your character, who you are, your essence, your being. And those things are represented in both males and in females. So, let's define the image of God. It's not fair for us to say we're made in the image of God and then nobody ever tell you what that means. You just go, okay, we're made in the image of God. And so we hear God in Scripture. Does God have hands? Well, he presents himself that way. We're in the hand of God. Does God see? Well, he has eyes. Does God hear prayers? He has ears. Does God think? Yes, it says he has a mind. And so the idea is that he presents himself in all of these human ways because that's the only way we know how to relate to him. We can't relate to a spirit. It doesn't make any sense to us because that's not a defined being. God is spirit. So let's define what the image of God is. Genesis 1, 26, 25 and 26. And God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And let him have dominion over the fish you see, the birds of the air, the creeping things, and every creature on the earth. What is dominion? Authority. Rule. To be in charge. And what did he specifically say about dominion? What did he give them charge over? The earth, right? All the animals, every single one of them. Do we control the weather? That's God's realm. But as James even says in his discussion about how tough it is to tame the tongue, James says that every creature of man has been tamed. Meaning, you think about all the different creatures who have been tamed to do certain things or who are controlled by humans. Animals, plants. We control. God said, you have dominion. To be made in the image of God means, like God, we have dominion. We control things. We have that ability to do. So that is part of it. Number 2, to be made in the image of God. Not only do we have the power to control, but we also have volition or free will. We have the ability to choose to exercise the control that we have. God gave us free will. God granted us the opportunity to be like him. In his free will, he chose to do a lot of things. He created because he wanted to. So we have free will and exercising our dominion. Number 3. And then we're going to take all of these and talk about what it means. Okay? Number 3. We have within us this spark of deity. Ecclesiastes 9 verse 11 says, he made all people, he put eternity in their hearts, the text says. He put eternity in their hearts. What do you think that means? What was the wise man saying when he said, God put eternity in people's hearts? You ever thought about that? You ever heard that verse before? Okay. Let's ask it in a way that we can come to understand it. Why do you think we've spent millions, even billions of dollars in the last number of decades going into space?
Try to find out what's out there.
Why?
To see if we're alone, like in the universe.
Why?
Because we're so big.
Why?
Curiosity.
Not everybody's going to say it. But the whole concept that drives the space program boils down to, where did we come from? Why do you think that Darwin's evolutionary theory was even created? Because we have to have an answer. And they don't like the God answer, so they create another answer. But it's still a search for what is. They don't even recognize it. People that don't appreciate God don't even recognize that they have this spark of deity that's drawing them to something beyond themselves. They just don't see it. And yet it's there. God put it there. We have this draw, and God wants us to be drawn to Him. We would think it to be abnormal for parents to choose to have a child and then want to have no relationship with that child. Wouldn't that be abnormal? Now, certain things happen where children have to be adopted, but that's not my point. My point is when parents say, I think we'd like to have a child. That'd be great. We need a child. And then never want to have a relationship with that child. That's abnormal. There's something wrong with you. Well, God wants to have a relationship. So He put that draw. He put that eternity. There's a curiosity that says there's something else out there. And then number 4, in the image of God means that we have emotional attachment to the things of God and the things that He has created. Why did God make things so beautiful? Because God is an emotional creature, a being. He is an emotional being, and He is attached to those things. When we look at the beauty of the creation, one of the things I think we forget sometimes is that the creation we now see is not the creation that He made. The flood changed everything. But from the flood, God brought beauty because of God's emotional nature. He didn't destroy it to be a waste area. He destroyed it and then brought it back to life in a new and beautiful way that it wasn't there before. So God is an emotional being, and He gave us our emotional selves, more or less, but we all have them. Now, those 4 things are not about your physical appearance. Are you a woman or are you a man? They're not about that. They are about who you are, your essence, and your nature. one has posited this idea that I've never heard before that I'm fascinated with. Because God, as spirit, is neither male nor female. But he has, doesn't he, in his being, the essence of both. Would that be true? Does God, in his spirit essence, have both the maleness and the femaleness concepts? Someone has posited. He created Adam, and in that creation, created a being who had both the maleness and the femaleness essence, and then God separated the two, which is why Adam would say, she is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And so we now have the separated essences of male and female, and we know sort of what that means. We know the essence difference between men and women that's not biological necessarily. It's a difference of how we think, how we feel, how we operate. One that sort of says it to me a lot. I would not mind living in a house that just had what I needed in it. And if I were living by myself, do you think that I would put out decorations for the fall and for the winter? And would I have an arrangement on the table where I eat? I mean, I probably wouldn't have a table. I'd have a TV tray is about all I'd have, you know. And I've told it at Richmond many times. Years ago, first married, my wife went into the bathroom, this hall bathroom, you know, the guest bathroom, whatever it is, and these towels that were hanging over there were disturbed and wet. And she said, "Did you use those towels?" I said, "Well, sure. I washed my hands and used the towels." "Those are not towels to be used." "And what are they for?" "Decoration. Towels to be looked at." Makes zero sense to me. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But you got to have towels over there that nobody touches. You think I'd have that if I weren't married? I can guarantee you not. Most men would not. Most women probably would. I mean, just when I went to college, I'm thinking about watching what those girls were bringing into their rooms to get them ready versus what I brought to mine to get it ready. Totally different. It's essence. That's the image of God. It's the essence of who we are, not the DNA of who we are. But the DNA is very important because the DNA, as a Newsweek or Time magazine article wrote in the 60s, when the DNA concept was being scientifically begun, we were working on it. Wasn't used any at all until about the 80s, and then really got going in the 90s. They called it the finger of God. Because today, free will, you can choose as a woman to live as a man, and as a man live as a woman. You can do that. But the DNA says you can't change that. You're still a male, you're still a woman. I don't care what else you say or what else you do. I don't care what you add or what you hack off. You're a man or you're a woman, period. That's it. The DNA is God's stamp, God's finger, telling us how to live out His image. And he says to the women, you live out your image this way. And he says to the men, you live out your image this way. And so God tells us that the image of God is the essence of who we are that we take with us, whether we are male or whether we are female. Now, since you are made in the image of God, since your worth is your image of God, not biologically connected, what do you think it means for you as a person to know that you have this dominion and power, this volition and free will, this eternal spark drawing you to God, and this emotional nature? What does that mean for each one of us as people? What do you think is the point that those things make as it relates to the image of God? What thoughts do you have? Yell really loud out there online so we can hear. So what is your worth? Where does your worth come from? That's what we're talking about this weekend. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You are worth. I think he mentioned, Ralph, last night or today when he said, you are not worth anything if it's just biological. They did a study that says if you break down all the chemical composite of your body, each physical body, you're worth $1.96. That's what you're worth, $1.96. Now, you know, the 300 and 400 pounders, they might be worth $2.05. I don't know, but and these little skinny ones might be $1.91. But you're worth $1.96. But your worth isn't about your chemical makeup. Your worth is about the image of God. So what does it mean to find your worth? Or to live your worth? What does that mean? I'm sorry about online for the silence, but I choose silence to help people learn to talk. So I'll wait. What about it? What does it mean to find your worth as it relates to those things? Give me a thought. I don't know. Just tell me. Oh. Make the effort. Try, figure it out, live this. Your worth be directly related to how well you live the image of God in your life. That's your worth. And if you take control of your life, because you can take control of the direction of your life because you can. And if you exercise your free will to make good choices and good decisions directing your life because you can, and because those free will choices are directly related to this stamp of God, this curiosity that draws you to Him because you can. And when you become emotionally invested in all of that, you are finding your worth. You are living out the image of God. And that's the point. To be made in the image of God tells us who we are. To live the image of God tells us what we do, what we become. Some people just ignore it, and it never comes to the surface. And others say, this is my calling. This is who I am. and this is how I'm going to live. You are fearfully and wonderfully made because your worth comes from the image of God, the stamp of God in your life. Whether you are male or female, God says you are worth it. And you have a job, you have a life, you have a calling to be male, to be female, to be in the image of God, because that's how God made you. You can't change that. The stamp proves it. We good? All right. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have something to eat at home, because I'm going to go out here and eat right now. Goodbye.
Okay, if you're joining us online, it is time for your lunch break. Join us back at 2:25. Greg Collins is going to be running a game of Kahoot, and you'll be able to join us on that. We have singing still, several more video messages coming up. Group picture, make sure and take a picture where you're at your home. Email it to me or text it to me. Email's philblankenship@msn.com. Text is 859-582-4479. That way we can put your picture up with the rest of them here. And then our keynote is going to be at about 4:25, 4:30 with Who Am I, Lord? See you at 2:25.